trading gas taxes for income taxes, and what if COTA was free to ride for everyone? Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Jesse Balmert, State House reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Darrell Rowland, public affairs editor for the Columbus Dispatch, Bob Clegg, Republican strategist, and Joseph Moss of the Ohio Hispanic Coalition. What goes up must come down. For Isaac Newton, it was a gravity-propelled apple. For Republicans, it's taxes. Senate President Larry Obhoff says if taxes go up, if gas taxes go up, then income taxes must come down. Obhoff is not a fan of Governor Wine's proposed 18-cent a gallon increase in the gasoline tax. Obhoff says it is probably too high. He says he's not sure the state needs all of that money to fix its roads and bridges, but the governor says his plan is no frills.
18 cents is a minimalist approach. It is a conservative approach. It is, frankly, a status quo approach. It's not, people aren't going to wake up in 2 years and think they're, driving on the most fabulous roads in the world. But it's going to keep us in the game. It's going to save lives, and it's going to allow Ohio to continue to grow.
Bob Clegg, is this gas tax proposal in trouble, or is this just part of the game where you start at 18, you may drop to 12, phase it in?
Maybe. I mean, I think we're going to do something because the problem is serious. And I'm a little disappointed that our previous governor let this happen because we are to a point now where there is no money to fix any of these problems with our infrastructure, roads, bridges, et cetera. So something has to be done. 18 cents is quite a bit. But when you look at neighboring states, it puts us in the ball game with everybody else because we've been so artificially low on it. I disagree with the Senate president. I think there is a problem, and I think it's got to be addressed. However, I do agree with the Senate president in that whatever they do I think should be revenue neutral. And I like his idea of looking at the income tax and trying to offset what's done on the gas tax with the income tax.
Jesse, is that what's going to happen? Are they going to, do you see if they raise the gas tax, they're going to have to cut someplace else to get it through the Senate?
I think the Senate is where you're going to run into problems here. As the Senate president was saying, he was saying that we haven't been passing a lot of tax increases while he's been here, perhaps none. And so it's not really palatable to him. I think it's going to be easier to get through the House a proposal. Speaker Larry Householder was here the last time we raised the gas tax. So I think he sees it as an option, whereas Larry Obhoff in the Senate is much more questioning of whether there's even a problem.
I think there were a lot of heads shaking, quite frankly, when Senate President Obhoff made his remarks. He's talking about initially doesn't see the need for any increase off the top of his head. So maybe the roads are smooth between here and Medina and back, but a lot of people around the state are wondering. Now, the governor and his transportation director, his safety director have all said we need the 18 cents for safety, and because, as they say, the credit card is maxed out. Interestingly, the House will go first, of course, in this, and Speaker Householder has differed from his Republican colleague in the Senate, not necessarily on the full 18 cents, but on seeing the need. So it'll be real interesting, say this passes the House, which I would guess it would, then it gets to the Senate. Do they strip this out? And if Bob is talking about a complete offset, that's $1.2 billion a year that would have to be whacked from the general fund for a tax increase. Where is that going to come from with Mike DeWine wanting to do a lot of stuff with early childhood education and other programs?
Well, Joe, Democrats say just eliminate some of those tax loopholes for the rich and you'd make up that money.
Well, and you certainly can do that, and I think that you should. There's a great paradox associated with this whole thing of a gas tax. Traditionally, a lot of progressives think that, in fact, there ought to be a substantial tax, much higher than 18 cents or 28 plus 18 on tax in order to encourage people to not burn up carbon and create carbon emissions. At the same time, this kind of a tax, by definition, is regressive because it affects everybody the same. So that's the paradox that I think that Democrats find themselves in. What I don't understand is the logic that Bob has clarified for us here is if if you're going to get more money in because you need more money, and then you're going to give it back by then cutting taxes on somebody else, that's doing nothing in order to increase the resources of the state.
What if they cut the taxes on the lower income brackets?
Which is what the Democrats want to do.
Yeah, so that would at least
expand the earned income.
for the regressivity of the gas tax than the lower income tax on low income folks.
But it's my understanding that Obhoff is talking about a flatter type of tax cut.
Yeah, that would be interesting, but I don't think that's what Republicans in the
the
legislature are going to do.
The Senate President is talking about something much broader. What it does, Joe, it doesn't increase the pool of tax revenues.
Right.
What it does is just shift
Yeah.
the money. And it shifts money to local governments who, over the last 8 years, have been getting less and less money. In fact, all of that bond money that was spent on roads over the last 8 years wasn't spent by the local governments. This is all spent by the state. So the local roads are the ones that are in the worst shape.
Could Larry Obhoff's point be that this is a gas tax that is it's going to fund highways over a decade? Could he be saying this is why we need to phase it in? So we may not need all of this money like next year. We need maybe 6 cents a gallon this year, and then 10 cents a gallon in 3 years, and 12 cents in 8 years. Is that what he's getting at there?
Well, let's face it. As the Senate President himself noted, they've been very adverse to any sorts of tax increases, even fixing a loophole in the pass-through tax that Joe referred to, where the rich benefit from tax breaks meant for the poor. And state revenue has steadily increased during most of Senate President Obhoff's tenure. They're kind of in a different playing field. And now all of a sudden 18 cents a gallon sounds like just a whopper. So of course the first instinct is to push back a little bit. Can't we phase it in? Can't we cut it out? Do that. But DeWine so far is sticking to 18 cents. I said 18 because we need 18.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because DeWine is asking for that $1.2 billion, but even speaking with Householder this week, who thinks that we need to do something, his numbers were closer to $850 million to $1 billion. So I think you're going to see that 18 cents come down in the legislature. I just don't know by how much.
And the whole index to inflation would rise with inflation.
Certainly.
Also a sticking point. Speaking of paying for transportation, a prominent Columbus developer and former longtime COTA board member has a bold plan to increase ridership, make it free for everyone to ride. Bob Weiler proposes eliminating the fare box. Right now, roughly 19 million people ride the bus each year. They pay $2 per ride or $62 for a monthly pass. Thanks to taxes and government subsidies already in place, fare revenue only makes up about 12% of COTA's revenues. Weiler says, why not go all the way, eliminate the fares by increasing the local sales tax by 0.1%. Skeptics include Franklin County Commissioner Kevin Boyce, who says a sales tax increase would only hurt the low-income COTA riders they're trying to help. Joe Mas, what do you think of this?
I had no idea that the tickets that you buy, your fares, covered such a small amount. I thought it was a much greater percentage. Looking at this thing, I think it merits some discussion. I mean, sympathetic with respect to the impact of a 0.1% tax, but at the end of the day, it's not that great. And if it increases ridership, I think it's a good idea.
Bob?
Well,
I guess you have a different opinion.
Well, Mike,
Okay.
if a Democrat like Kevin Boyce is against this idea, then I guess I got to be against it too. I mean, he makes a good point. I mean, somebody's got to pay for this, okay? Either the riders or everybody else that not only rides it but doesn't ride it. And I think he comes up with it's going to hurt the people that they're trying to help the most.
It's not a
huge
huge
regressive
amount.
tax, and it's going to hurt a lot of poor people, and I got to agree with him on that.
0.1%. I mean, it's what a penny every $10 or something like that, right?
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not a huge amount, but it's still raising taxes to offering a government service for free. Darrell, that's not a good mix.
Well, I know, and as Joe indicated, I think a lot of people are, unaware of how much COTA is subsidized. That's not just COTA. This is the world of public transit, folks. It's not like a private sector enterprise. It is a service to the public. There's no way they're going to turn a profit, so to speak. They're not going to be self-supporting. It's just the facts of life in this day and age. So, I'm like Joe. It's cool to have creative ideas like that, and let's scratch our heads and do the math, compare that. Maybe that 0.1% of a percent, to compare that to a year bus pass, and just do the math, see what happens.
Jesse, you work for a Cincinnati newspaper. They've had a lot of trouble down there with their public transit system. You actually have rail down there, and it hasn't gone as well as planned, I guess. And
yeah, the streetcars, political careers have risen and fallen in Cincinnati over problems of the streetcar. So there's that.
Literally a third rail, you could say.
Precisely. So I think the problem with that is largely it's duplicative of a lot of other services they have there, and also it tends to break down every once in a while, which becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting what this does to ridership or even congestion downtown, but I don't know if that's worth the cost.
We have increasing congestion that I think maybe we're not feeling quite yet. Just 2 weeks ago, I drove through Charlotte, North Carolina. They are widening, I guess it's 75, going through
Big highway.
12 lanes going through. We're not anywhere near that.
We have plenty of room to grow.
There's daily congestion at the 71 interchange in downtown.
What about that argument? I mean, it's public transit, so it is a public service.
Sure.
It's always going to be subsidized. If it lessens the burden on the roads, causes people, say you have a car. I can see how this, think myself, I have a car. I don't want to invest in a COTA bus pass because, I'm already paying car insurance. I'm paying my auto payment. So I'm not going to pay an extra $60 a month. But if it was free, I might take the bus 2 or 3 days a week.
Well, that's the problem with public transit. So much of this is based on the fact that people just don't want to give up their cars. Now, you're saying if we make it free, maybe they will. And you know what?
At least
You
occasionally,
you might be right. Then again, you may not be. And we make it free, and we still have the same number of riders that we had when you had to pay.
Still doesn't solve the last mile, first mile problem that COTA has. You have to walk a mile to get to your stop. The buses don't go everywhere, Joe, and if you cut
We
the
have
fares,
the scooters.
Yes, right. Just wear your helmet. If you eliminate fares, what does that do to their ability to grow if they need to? It's got to hurt that, I would guess. I don't know.
Well, you're talking about more money then.
Yeah.
Needing more money, so then you go back, do we raise that 1/10 or whatever it was a little bit more? And that's the vicious circle you get into here.
Yeah,
I mean, in theory, you would have growth on the sales tax, though,
yeah.
if you have a growing economy.
Yeah. No city in the country has free public transit.
I mean, obviously,
large
we
city.
do downtown with the downtown circulator, and they should take a look at that first, because if that's not working,
And that's business owners paying into that.
Yeah, that's the
downtown.
Yeah, downtown workers
Yeah.
have free fares because business owners, property
pay-
owners,
yeah,
So, but
pay into it.
because that's
So somebody does have skin in the game
yeah,
in that.
they have to. They're
free to
incentive.
the riders. all
Sure,
I was saying,
yeah.
But it's also free. The property owners have to build fewer parking garages if you have more people on the bus. So it's worth talking about anyway. A year after the Parkland, Florida school shooting energized gun control advocates. A year after then Governor John Kasich called for tougher background checks and a red flag law, the state of Ohio is again joining lawsuits to overturn out-of-state laws restricting access to guns. Attorney General Dave Yost filed friend of the court briefs opposing laws in New Jersey and California, but as first reported by the Dispatch, Yost did so quietly, sending out a media release, not to the media, but to the pro-gun Buckeye Firearms Association. Now, to be fair, that association does have a newsletter. Darrell Rowland, why so quiet? Republican for gun access. It seems like a no-brainer, but Dave Yost quietly did this.
So there I am in the morning. I get up and open up my laptop, even before breakfast, I think it was. And I'm on the Buckeye Firearms Association email list.
Yeah.
And I look down and they say Dave Yost has joined 2 out-of-state lawsuits involving guns. And, he's taking the pro-Second Amendment. So yay for Dave Yost. And here's a whole news release. And it's like, so I email my guy who covers the Attorney General, says, I don't remember this coming through. Do you? And long story short, just as you said, it was exclusively. And to his credit, Attorney General Yost has said that was a mistake and it won't happen again. But boy, there's 2 levels to this. One is that odd, you just target your audience to the one who would receive the most favorable. Yeah. Like if he, does something favorable for the press, he'd just mail it out to, I don't know, editors or something. Yeah. But the other is this whole question, and he's committing the entire state of Ohio, basically, to join these lawsuits. It was an issue under Mike DeWine's. Rich Cordray, it's an issue under many attorneys general. In this case, we're a pro-Second Amendment state, so we're going to back that position. Attorney General DeWine backed cases against Obamacare and won a key case.
Joe, you're an attorney. How much of an impact does a friend of the court brief from Ohio have on New Jersey, which has a law that says you have to prove danger to bring your gun outside the home.
It depends on how good it is. I mean, there are friends of the brief that have been submitted in the past that, in fact, have changed the law because a new or in other states or whatever. I mean, this is a federal question. Yeah. I guess it could be. This, by the way, this particular lawsuit has to do with two laws, one from California, I can't remember the other one. New Jersey is the other one, and the New Jersey one is presenting the question as to whether the right to keep and bear arms extends outside your home, basically,
you have to prove you have to prove you're in danger. Yeah.
The California one is a little weird because it demands that the gun sold in the state imprint on the spent casings a number that is particular to that gun. And there is no gun that does that, to my knowledge. And so that is a little more extreme. That is, in fact,
would be a
ban on all guns as they currently are available.
Should states get involved in these suits?
You know what, Mike? Over the last 10 years, we've seen this grow from, Republican attorney generals on Obamacare. Now we've seen a group of Democrat attorney generals against President Trump and the declaration of an emergency. I mean, I see this as becoming just political tools for states' attorney generals to get their names out there, and I don't know. I don't know if it makes a difference. But like you say, it commits the whole state, whether you like it or not. And I think it's just more political gamemanship.
Democrats complain about, in these cases, Republican attorneys general or governors, the cost. Any idea how much it really costs for the attorney general's office to file this brief or go to court or fight these out?
You know what? It depends. If the amicus briefs are pretty inexpensive. I'm not even sure if there's a cost beyond the printing. Mike DeWine, when he was Attorney General, did this 125 times since when he was in office. I took a look during the campaign on things from crosses in Maryland to just various things. So it's a pretty common practice nowadays for attorneys general to do this. And, whether you like your attorney general to be political or not, I guess you're a little, you just have to deal with that at this point. So there isn't a huge cost to that. If we're a party in the case, now that becomes more expensive.
No, Bob said something that made me wonder, are most of these types of cases, as in the case with the Democrats and in this case, relative to the culture wars as opposed to other issues that may have to do, for example, with prescription drugs or something else? Perhaps that's what it's about. So it's a statement on behalf of that particular elected official, the Attorney General, as to the position of the state or the position of his or her office.
All right. Sherrod Brown said he would let us know in March if he will officially run for president. Well, it's March, so we should know soon. First, he has one more stop on his Dignity of Work tour. This weekend, he's in South Carolina. This trip follows other trips to early caucus or primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. In Nevada, Brown made his pitch to the state's biggest unions.
It doesn't matter to me who else is in the race, if it's Biden, if it's Sanders, if it's anybody else. It's a personal decision. I get in this race, I'll be the most pro-union, pro-worker candidate in the group. And I will know how to stand up to this president of the United States, to President Trump, who betrays workers every day.
Jesse Brahman, that's his message. He sticks to those points, but it's not really caught on quite yet. I'll check the average, the Real Clear Politics average. Sherrod Brown's at like 1.7%.
With a field this large, it's going to be hard to, push beyond basic name recognition at this juncture. I think people are maybe not even aware we're having an election in a year and some change. So, but yeah, I mean, I think to Sherrod's point, I think it does matter who else is in this race. I think if Joe Biden is in this race, that is a problem a little bit for him because Biden is a better known Democrat from a similar area who might appeal to those same, types of worker voters. I think if Amy Klobuchar is in the race, she's another Midwestern candidate. So I'm sure he is making a decision based on his family and so forth, but his, ability to succeed in this race is going to matter a little bit who else is in the race.
Joe, you're looking at the video. It's hard to tell. We haven't been there. I haven't been there personally, but he's getting okay crowds. Some of that video from Nevada showed how Union Hall, that was pretty crowded, enthusiastic.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah, he's not, he's certainly not, well, no one touches Trump. He's not getting Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren crowds. But, that's okay because, in this instance, there are a zillion candidates and, we're many miles from the first primary, although it is, less than a year now to Iowa and New Hampshire. As you say, he's in South Carolina. We're probably about a year out from that. To me, I have not covered any of these, but so I read a lot of the coverage, and I have seen a subtle shift in language. And maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm seeing something where there's not, where he's talking initially about the dignity of work, whomever is the nominee, I want them to carry this theme, to, as in the cut you played, well, if I'm president, I would be different than this. So it sounds like it's becoming a little more real.
Yeah.
And I know from covering John Kasich and many others, you get out in the hustings and there's a lot of why not me?
He's the alternative to Trump, which is what the Democrat, that's ultimately what's going to be the key for a Democrat.
Yeah, he's a poor man's Joe Biden and a younger Joe Biden, which is, I think, extremely important. But I think what you said, Jesse, was absolutely correct. I don't think he has a dominant theme yet. I don't think he has a let's do blank together that inspires people so that the message comes through about labor. Well, that's really nice. But I mean, I think all the Democratic candidates are going to be in the same position.
Does he jump in, Bob, do you think? Sherrod Brown?
I don't know why he would, but he may. What I've been sensing from him lately is I see him going down the John Kasich road of 2016, where he's starting to say, I'm not like those leftist radicals. We got to have somebody with common sense here. And, Kasich tried that, and we saw how well that worked. When your party is going in a certain direction, don't try fighting it and going away from that. If you want to be the nominee, you got to kind of go over there. And he mentions, I don't care who's running, whether it's Biden, Sanders. Well, it's the other two old white men that he's talking about. Yeah. And I don't know if there's going to be any room for an old white man on that ticket at all. So I think it's going to be tough.
I do find it fascinating that just being from Ohio makes you a centrist. It worked for John Kasich and it works for Sherrod Brown.
Regardless of your voting record,
Yeah.
All right, after hearing complaints of having a rigged system, Columbus City Council has made some changes to how it operates. City Council this week appointed its newest member, Rob Dorans. He's a labor union lawyer with close ties to the construction industry. He fills the seat vacated by incoming County Auditor Michael Stinziano, who left council. The process of appointing Dorans and fellow new member Shayla Favor is new. It includes 2 public hearings, and of course, the City Council placed a limit on individual campaign donations, $13,000 a year. And eventually members will represent districts, even though they will still run citywide. Joe Mas, it's very early in this new process. How's it working? Is it opening it up, the process at all?
Well, I think the process has been opened up. I think they have 56 original applicants, and then they whittled that down to 15. And that was done, it's my understanding, behind closed doors. And then the last 15 were done in open session. But at the end of the day, the selection was very similar to the types of candidates that we have seen selected in the past. Somebody from construction/labor, and then somebody from the City Council's office. We had 2 candidates from the Latino community, Lourdes Barroso and Ramona Reyes, that I would have liked to have seen selected. After all, our immigrant, non-English as a first language community in Columbus is huge. I think we need to move in that direction.
I think we talked about this briefly in January when the first appointment was made, and I thought, well, what's changed? Nothing really. We're talking about cosmetics. We're adding 2 public hearings, but they still go behind closed doors, and they pick the person who they want them to pick, and they don't let in any outsiders, in that process. And their spending limits, give me a break. $13,000. I wish my state rep and state senate clients had that kind of a spending limit. That's not everything they've done is cosmetic and doesn't really change the game as it's played.
All right. Let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. Joe Mas, you're up first.
And actually, on that same topic, my closing comment is a plea to these new members, to Rob Dorans and Shayla Favor. As you celebrate, guys, the rising prominence of our city and consider maybe development initiatives like tax breaks and so on, please spend at least as much time as trying to fix the gut-wrenching challenges of the pockets of poverty, extreme poverty inside the city, address the joblessness, high crime, drug overdoses, infant mortality, because your job will be judged by the progress you make in these areas by those who are most challenged.
Bob.
Fiat Chrysler announced this week they're going to dump $4.5 billion into new plants in southeast Michigan, creating 6,500 jobs. As a native Toledoan and a Jeep owner, I like that.
All right, Daryl.
Many times on this show, I've mentioned Blake Haxton, the Upper Arlington rower, lost both of his legs. Now has recovered to be one of the world's best Paralympians, flies international private business. It's been 10 years this month since that initial accident, or the initial incident that led to that. So it's been an amazing, miraculous 10 years for Blake.
Congratulations to him. Jesse.
There was an interesting bill introduced this week from Democrat Jack Serra to move the primary from March back to May for the 2020 race. And Speaker Householder said he doesn't really like campaigning in the snow.
Well, maybe it'll happen then. My off-record comment: for some strange reason, during the 8 years of John Kasich's administration, the Ohio Channel was not airing the Q&A portion of John Kasich's news conferences. Well, that changed this week, and Mike DeWine had a news conference. They aired the whole thing. So thanks to the Ohio Channel and to, I guess, the DeWine administration for allowing that tradition to continue. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online. We're on Facebook, Twitter. See each episode on demand at our website, WOSU.org. Have a good week.